Welcome to Conspiracy Theories Podcast. I'm your host, Noah Smith, and in today's episode, we investigate one of the most bizarre and persistent mysteries in America, the Denver International Airport. Beneath its runways and murals lies a conspiracy that links secret societies, underground bunkers, and the Illuminati. Is this massive airport just a hub for travel, or something far more sinister? Construction on Denver International Airport began in 1989, following years of debate over whether the city even needed a new airport. Denver's existing Stapleton International Airport was fully functional and served the city well, yet political pressure mounted for a larger, more modern facility. What followed was one of the most controversial airport projects in American history. Originally scheduled to open in 1993, Denver International didn't open until 1995, 2 years late and nearly $2 billion over budget. The delays and financial irregularities quickly became fertile ground for suspicion. Why did the airport cost so much more than projected? Why were so many changes made to the design mid-construction? These questions laid the groundwork for something far more complex than simple bureaucratic mismanagement. At over 33,000 acres, Denver International became the largest airport in the United States by land area. Its sheer size immediately raised eyebrows. Many questioned why an airport needed so much empty land, especially since only a fraction of it was being used for terminals and runways. Was it future-proofing, or was it intended for something hidden from public view? Then came the whispers of underground tunnels. Numerous workers who were involved in the early stages of construction have come forward, some anonymously, describing vast subterranean structures built beneath the airport. Officially, these underground facilities were intended to house a state-of-the-art automated baggage system. But when the system failed spectacularly and was ultimately abandoned, the question remained, what were the tunnels really for? Some claimed they saw vast empty chambers with no obvious purpose. Others alleged that the tunnels connected to deeper levels never shown on official blueprints. The cultural context of the early 1990s added further fuel to the theory. The Cold War had just ended, but fear of nuclear disaster lingered in the public consciousness. As a result, bunkers and continuity of government operations were the subject of renewed interest. Programs like Mount Weather and Raven Rock, highly classified government bunkers, were revealed around this time. With these revelations, it became plausible to many that Denver International might serve as a similar facility, a secret bunker meant for the elite in the event of national catastrophe. Adding to this paranoia was the rise of conspiracy-focused media in the 1990s. Shows like The X-Files captured the public imagination and reflected growing distrust in official narratives. The internet was still in its infancy, but forums and bulletin boards buzzed with speculation. For those already skeptical of government institutions, Denver International offered a compelling physical symbol of hidden power. The architecture itself seemed to provoke unease. The airport's tent-like roof structure, inspired by the nearby Rocky Mountains, evoked comparisons to nomadic encampments or military installations. Even the layout of the runways came under scrutiny. To some, the aerial view of the runways resembled a swastika, a detail that would come to hold sinister implications in the context of later claims about Nazi influence in secret societies. The climate of growing mistrust, paired with Denver International's delays, cost overruns, underground facilities, and eerie design choices, created a perfect storm. What began as skepticism about construction turned into a full-blown conspiracy theory. Was the airport part of a secret government operation? Was it connected to a global elite preparing for a future cataclysm? These questions found eager audiences, particularly among those already convinced that major institutions rarely told the full truth. It wasn't just the internet fueling the speculation. Even mainstream media outlets began to take notice. Local news reports featured whistleblowers who had worked on site. Tour guides and airport employees quietly acknowledged the rumors to curious travelers. Public interest snowballed, and what might have once remained a niche curiosity transformed into one of the most enduring modern conspiracy theories. Much of the intrigue surrounding Denver International Airport centers on a series of key figures and events that seemed, at best, unusual, and at worst, deliberately cryptic. One of the most controversial players in the story is the airport's original design and construction firm, Fentress Bradburn Architects. Head architect Curtis Fentress has often spoken publicly about the airport's aesthetics and challenges during construction. But to conspiracy theorists, his explanations have done little to address what they see as deeper symbolism and coded messages embedded in the airport's structure and artwork. From the very beginning, leadership decisions behind the airport's development were fraught with irregularities. The project saw a revolving door of managers, construction foremen, and contractors. Several of the companies involved reportedly declared bankruptcy or mysteriously ceased operations after their work was completed. This further fueled suspicion that entities operating behind the scenes wanted to erase paper trails or hide the true extent of the work done below ground. Some have suggested that private military contractors were involved in constructing the underground facilities, firms with experience in top-secret installations like NORAD or Cheyenne Mountain, both located relatively nearby in Colorado. But the most visible source of mystery lies not underground, but in plain sight, the airport's artwork. A focal point of this attention is Leo Tanguma, the Chicano muralist behind two massive and deeply symbolic murals, Children of the World Dream of Peace and In Peace and Harmony with Nature. Though Tanguma has repeatedly explained the murals as hopeful depictions of humanity, overcoming war and environmental destruction, critics argue they tell a more ominous story. The murals show scenes of global destruction, militarized figures in gas masks, and children laying beneath what appear to be coffins draped in national flags. One panel includes a burning city, another shows a soldier wielding a saber over a line of terrified children. To some, it was a warning, a visual prophecy of a coming global crisis. Tanguma, for his part, has remained steadfast in defending his work. He insists that the darker panels are part of a narrative arc that ultimately transitions into peace and cooperation. But the context in which these murals appear, inside a highly secure airport riddled with secret tunnels and strange iconography, makes it difficult for skeptics to accept such benign interpretations at face value. Another name often linked to the airport's lore is New World Airport Commission, a mysterious organization credited on a dedication plaque installed at the south entrance of the airport's Great Hall. The plaque, dated March 19, 1994, features a time capsule to be opened in 2094. But more intriguing is the symbol engraved at the top, the square and compass of Freemasonry. Though the airport has stated that local Masonic lodges participated in the dedication, theorists have pointed to the phrase New World as a possible reference to the New World Order, the infamous alleged plan to establish a totalitarian global government. Oddly, the so-called New World Airport Commission appears to have no public record of existence outside of this plaque. Its name does not correspond to any recognized organization, leading many to believe it was fabricated as a nod to elite influence or secret societies. Compounding the mystery is the airport's infamous statue known as Blucifer, a 32-foot-tall cobalt blue Mustang with glowing red eyes. Sculpted by Luis Jimenez, the statue killed its creator when a piece of the sculpture fell and severed an artery in his leg. Despite this tragedy, the airport moved forward with the installation, and the statue quickly became another symbol of malevolent energy to conspiracy theorists. Its wild-eyed, menacing expression and eerie presence along Peña Boulevard, the airport's main approach road, made it an instant target for speculation. These figures, Fentress, Tanguma, Jimenez, and the unexplained references to shadowy groups like the New World Airport Commission, have played a central role in evolving the narrative. Whether intentionally or not, their creations and affiliations have only deepened the suspicion that Denver International is more than just an airport. To many, it's a puzzle built in plain sight, designed by those with knowledge, power, and perhaps an agenda that has yet to fully reveal itself. The physical structures and artistic elements at Denver International Airport are only part of the puzzle. The conspiracy theory truly gained momentum due to a series of specific claims and pieces of so-called evidence that proponents say point to a coordinated, and hidden agenda. These claims center on themes of secret societies, subterranean bunkers, advanced surveillance, and an alleged plan for global domination. At the heart of the theory is the assertion that the airport serves as a cover for a vast underground facility. According to multiple unverified reports, early construction workers allegedly witnessed an extensive series of tunnels, vast concrete caverns, and steel-reinforced rooms with no apparent function. Some even claim that the construction site underwent several suspicious halts, as if waiting for covert operations to be carried out without public oversight. These spaces were reportedly sealed off before the airport opened, buried beneath layers of reinforced concrete. The official explanation points to the failed automated baggage system that required complex underground infrastructure. But to conspiracy theorists, that system was merely a cover story, its failure seen not as incompetence, but as an intentional smokescreen to obscure the existence of deeper facilities. Another frequently cited piece of evidence is the airport's runways. From the air, the configuration of the runways appears, to some, to resemble a swastika. While airport officials insist the design was chosen for maximum efficiency under varying wind conditions, the symbolic resonance of such a shape is hard to ignore, especially when considered alongside other alleged Nazi references within the airport. The suggestion that this shape could be coincidental is rejected by believers who argue that in massive infrastructure projects, nothing is left to chance. The time capsule embedded beneath the airport's Freemason-marked dedication capstone is another focal point. Conspiracists claim it contains cryptic documents or technology meant for the elite who plan to resurface in 2094, the scheduled opening year. Despite repeated reassurances that the time capsule holds benign memorabilia, such as a piece of the old Stapleton runway, a baseball from the Colorado Rockies, and local newspapers, its contents have never been publicly verified. For those already suspicious of Masonic influence, the sealed vault and its vague inscription are seen as emblematic of hidden agendas and future plans known only to a select few. Also fueling suspicion are the strange markings and symbols etched into the airport's floor and walls. Some appear to be made-up words or cryptic codes, sparking speculation about secret languages or messages embedded in plain sight. One tile, for example, is inscribed with the word AUEG, which some claim refers not to the chemical symbols for gold and silver, but to a deadly strain of hepatitis known as Australia antigen, allegedly tied to population control theories. Though the artist behind the tile insists it references elements used in Colorado's mining history, the ambiguity has allowed it to become a lightning rod for speculation. Perhaps most chilling among the claims are the repeated references to the New World Order. This shadowy concept suggests that a global elite composed of powerful political, financial, and military figures is orchestrating events behind the scenes to usher in a single authoritarian government. Believers say Denver International was intentionally constructed away from major population centers so that in the event of societal collapse, it could serve as a command center for the elite. Some assert that the underground tunnels connect to NORAD in Colorado Springs or even to a nationwide subterranean network capable of sheltering thousands during a global catastrophe. Finally, there are the claims of surveillance and behavioral tracking at the airport. Some theorists believe that Denver International serves as a test site for mass monitoring technologies. Reports of strange cameras, biometric scanning devices, and even alleged facial recognition trials have circulated online. Though airports are by nature high-security environments, the suggestion here is that DIA is part of a broader experiment, testing systems meant for future deployment under a centralized global regime. None of these claims have been verified with hard evidence. But for many, that's precisely the point. The mystery is sustained by ambiguity, and in that ambiguity, the theory thrives. To those who believe, the pieces form a clear pattern. To others, they are simply coincidences wrapped in imagination. Yet the persistent questions remain, and each unexplained element is another brick in a structure far more elaborate than any terminal above ground. A closer look at the so-called evidence reveals a complex web of interpretation, coincidence, and unanswered questions, each piece scrutinized and analyzed by believers and skeptics alike. The supposed underground tunnels, for instance, are often cited as proof of something hidden beneath Denver International Airport. But documentation shows that the airport did, in fact, include an underground baggage system, which was ultimately scrapped after high-profile failures during early testing. The system was intended to revolutionize luggage handling with a network of conveyor belts and sensors. It suffered from mechanical breakdowns, misrouted bags, and software glitches that made it more of a liability than a benefit. Eventually, the system was mostly abandoned in favor of traditional luggage handling methods. Critics argue that the remnants of this failed system, miles of reinforced tunnels, were never intended for secretive purposes at all. Rather, they were costly mistakes preserved out of logistical necessity or bureaucratic inertia. Still, skeptics wonder why access to these tunnels remains restricted and why there are so few official blueprints available to the public. Airport authorities maintain that the infrastructure exists but serves basic operational needs. No credible photographic or testimonial evidence has confirmed the existence of deeper, hidden levels below these tunnels, despite claims from anonymous sources online. The infamous runway design also requires further scrutiny. While it's true that from above, the layout could be loosely interpreted as a swastika, experts in aviation design point out that the configuration allows aircraft to take off and land efficiently from multiple directions, reducing delays caused by wind. Airports like LAX and Dallas-Fort Worth have similarly complex layouts. The argument that DIA's configuration has symbolic intent relies heavily on the power of suggestion. Without context, almost any geometric shape can take on ominous meaning when observed through the lens of conspiracy. Then there's the Freemason dedication plaque and the New World Airport Commission. The symbol of the square and compass is undeniably linked to Freemasonry, a fraternity that has long been the subject of secrecy and suspicion. Yet Masonic lodges have historically participated in public dedications of civic structures across the U.S., from courthouses to monuments. The New World Airport Commission, on the other hand, appears to have been a ceremonial name created specifically for the opening of the airport, a reference to Dvorak's New World Symphony and the New World of air travel represented by DIA's grand scale and modern features. No known shadow organization uses this exact title, and its absence from public records is more likely due to its one-time ceremonial function than evidence of a covert elite. The murals by Leo Tanguma present one of the most polarizing pieces of evidence. Critics who see the artwork as dystopian or prophetic often isolate individual elements, gas-masked soldiers, ruined cities, weeping children, without acknowledging the narrative arc of the piece. Tanguma himself has explained in interviews and published statements that the murals were meant to show humanity overcoming the horrors of war and environmental destruction. When viewed in full, the panels do shift from violent imagery to scenes of peace, cultural unity, and ecological restoration. However, the decision to place such provocative imagery in a transit hub, a place where people are often already on edge, was at best an unusual artistic risk. The claim that the EU-AG inscription refers to the Australia antigen rather than chemical elements is another example of interpretive speculation. While the coincidence is intriguing, especially to those inclined toward population control theories, there is no concrete evidence linking the artist or the airport to any bioweapons research or government health agendas. The tile in question is part of a larger series meant to highlight Colorado's mining heritage, and airport officials have repeatedly dismissed alternative interpretations. Then there is Blucifer, the blue Mustang sculpture with glowing red eyes. While it's true that the statue killed its creator, Luis Jimenez, during construction, the red eyes were a design feature chosen by the artist to honor the spirit of the wild Mustang. The statue's unsettling presence and tragic backstory certainly contribute to the mythos, but claims that it symbolizes death or the four horsemen of the apocalypse remain speculative and symbolic rather than evidentiary. Each element, murals, plaques, tunnels, and statues, can be explained, at least in part, through publicly available facts and artist statements. However, the persistence of the conspiracy theory speaks not necessarily to a failure of logic, but to the power of ambiguity. When enough unexplained or coincidental details accumulate in one place, it becomes fertile ground for theories to take root. What cannot be conclusively disproven is often allowed to flourish in the shadows of uncertainty. And Denver International Airport, with its strange art, massive scale, and unanswered questions, remains one of the most compelling shadows of all. Critics of the Denver Airport conspiracy theory argue that its longevity has less to do with hidden truths and more to do with the human tendency to find patterns, especially in environments of uncertainty or strangeness. Psychologists describe this behavior as apophenia, the inclination to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. In an airport as architecturally unconventional and visually loaded as Denver International, it's perhaps inevitable that such patterns would emerge, even where none were intended. Skeptics frequently point to the availability of logical explanations for each piece of supposed evidence. The airport's massive land area, they argue, is not a secret staging ground for elites, but a reflection of future-proofing and strategic planning. Unlike urban airports hemmed in by city growth, Denver International was designed to accommodate expansion for decades to come. Its location on the remote plains northeast of the city was chosen specifically for this reason. Land was inexpensive, and future runway configurations would not be constrained by surrounding development. Furthermore, the cost overruns and construction delays, while suspicious in the eyes of conspiracy theorists, are not unusual for large-scale infrastructure projects. Examples abound across the United States. Boston's Big Dig, the California High-Speed Rail, and New York's Second Avenue Subway all experience significant financial and logistical complications. What's often interpreted as intentional obfuscation may simply be evidence of bureaucratic dysfunction. Art critics and supporters of the airport's design often defend the controversial murals and sculptures as examples of public art doing what it's supposed to do: spark conversation, provoke thought, and reflect society's anxieties. Tanguma's murals, when taken as a whole, tell a story of triumph over chaos, not an endorsement of it. The depiction of violence, fear, and environmental collapse is followed by scenes of unity, renewal, and peace. Critics of the conspiracy narrative argue that to isolate the dark imagery while ignoring the resolution is to misrepresent the artist's intention entirely. The swastika-shaped runway claim is likewise often dismissed as flawed logic. Aviation analysts stress that the pattern is a practical one, allowing for optimal runway access during Denver's unpredictable weather conditions. Runway configurations must be oriented according to prevailing wind directions, and Denver's design maximizes safe landings and takeoffs regardless of wind shifts. The supposed symbolic resemblance is a result of bird's-eye photos taken out of context, an aerial pattern imposed onto a symbol rather than the other way around. As for the New World Airport Commission, journalists and local officials have traced its origin to a temporary promotional group formed during the airport's dedication. Its name, drawn from the themes of a new world of air travel, coincided with performances of Dvorak's New World Symphony at the opening ceremony. There is no evidence to suggest that it was an operational or ongoing organization. The confusion, according to airport representatives, stems from the name's unfortunate overlap with language associated with conspiracy rhetoric. Even the Masonic plaque, often presented as evidence of secret society involvement, fits a long-standing tradition in the United States. Freemasons have been involved in cornerstone ceremonies for centuries, participating in the dedication of public buildings, libraries, and monuments. Their involvement at DIA is not unique, nor is the presence of their symbol on the plaque. The inclusion of a time capsule is likewise not unusual. Hundreds of civic projects include sealed artifacts meant for future generations. Lucifer's red eyes, while striking, are explained by the artist's own statements. Jimenez chose the glowing effect as a nod to the spirit of the American West, giving the horse an almost mythic presence. The tragic accident that claimed his life was, by all official accounts, an unfortunate workplace mishap during final assembly, not the result of cursed energy or malevolent intent. Conspiracy theories about the statue often ignore the decades-long career of Jimenez, whose work frequently pushed the boundaries of public sculpture. Ultimately, skeptics argue that the Denver Airport conspiracy is sustained not by fact, but by mood, an atmosphere of mystery created by artistic choices, architectural boldness, and public unfamiliarity with the decision-making processes behind massive infrastructure projects. In this view, the theory is a kind of folklore, a modern urban myth built from ambiguity and the psychological discomfort that arises when explanations feel incomplete or too mundane for such an unusual place. From this perspective, the conspiracy tells us more about our collective fears and imaginations than it does about any shadowy truth beneath the Colorado plains. The Denver Airport conspiracy theory, even when confronted with plausible explanations and logistical rationales, continues to thrive because of the larger anxieties it seems to echo. For many, it isn't just about secret tunnels or eerie murals. It's about the unsettling idea that monumental forces operate just out of view, manipulating the systems we rely on without our consent. In this way, the theory functions less as an isolated mystery and more as a window into broader concerns about power, transparency, and control in the modern world. The imagery embedded throughout the airport taps into deep archetypes: war, death, rebirth, hidden knowledge, elements that have long existed in mythologies and religious texts. For those who already distrust institutional authority, Denver International feels like a coded message in physical form. Its vast size, remote location, and jarring design choices all reinforce the notion that something is being concealed. Whether or not that's true in a literal sense, the perception alone is powerful enough to shape belief. This speaks to a broader cultural context in which conspiracy theories flourish. In a world increasingly driven by digital information, 24-hour news cycles, and global crises, the public's trust in institutions has eroded. Governments, media outlets, and even science are routinely challenged by competing narratives that gain traction online. The Denver Airport theory lives comfortably in that space, part aesthetic puzzle, part psychological mirror. There's also the allure of exclusivity. Conspiracy theories often create an insider versus outsider dynamic. Believers feel as though they are part of a group that sees the truth hidden beneath the surface, while the rest of the world remains blind. This insider status grants a sense of control and empowerment in a world that can often feel chaotic and overwhelming. The airport becomes not just a travel hub, but a symbol, a physical representation of the idea that the elite prepare for outcomes the general public isn't meant to survive. Psychologically, this touches on a deep human need to impose order on disorder. The mind resists randomness and seeks patterns even where none exist. The dramatic juxtaposition of apocalyptic murals with cheerful passengers rolling their luggage to gate terminals creates cognitive dissonance, and that discomfort invites interpretation. Something must explain the clash. Whether that explanation is artistic, symbolic, or sinister depends largely on one's worldview. From a political standpoint, the theory mirrors a long-standing fear that democracy is merely a facade for more entrenched systems of control. References to Freemasonry, the Illuminati, or the New World Order aren't specific to Denver. They echo through countless theories across decades. Denver International becomes a canvas on which these fears are projected. A modern temple, perhaps, built not to inspire awe, but to encode dominance, surveillance, and preparation for world-changing events. This fear is compounded by the nature of airports themselves. They are spaces saturated with surveillance where people are monitored, scanned, and restricted in movement. To some, this already evokes a dystopian setting. Add to it the stark murals, cryptic plaques, and monumental sculptures, and the setting becomes emotionally charged. What might feel like an open-air terminal to one person can feel like a psychological fortress to another. Interestingly, the airport has embraced its reputation in recent years. Officials have added exhibits poking fun at the conspiracy theories, featuring aliens peeking out of walls and posters joking about the lizard people allegedly living underground. While these efforts are meant to disarm the myths with humor, they've had mixed results. Some view them as clever marketing. Others interpret them as deliberate misdirection, proof that the airport is not only aware of its reputation, but revels in it, perhaps as a form of controlled narrative management. In this way, Denver International stands as more than just a transportation hub. It is a convergence point where folklore, suspicion, symbolism, and infrastructure collide. Its mythology endures not because of what's proven, but because of what can't be disproven, and because it resonates with deeper questions about who really builds the systems we move through every day and why. The Denver airport conspiracy has not only endured, it has evolved, morphing into a kind of cultural phenomenon that transcends the original claims. Its influence reaches into entertainment, online communities, and even political discourse, reflecting the ways in which conspiracy theories have embedded themselves into the fabric of modern storytelling and public dialogue. Mainstream media has increasingly referenced Denver International's shadowy reputation. Television shows, documentaries, and YouTube channels have covered the theory extensively, sometimes as satire, other times as earnest investigation. Shows like Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura and streaming documentaries have walked viewers through the murals, tunnels, and plaques, often emphasizing mystery over resolution. The airport has become a go-to backdrop for narratives about hidden agendas and elite control. Its massive, futuristic design, so different from conventional airport aesthetics, only reinforces its role as a modern-day enigma. On social media platforms like Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube, entire threads and video series have been dedicated to exploring and dissecting every facet of the airport's architecture and lore. Users post supposed clues, digital reconstructions of underground layouts, and speculative links between Denver and other high-security sites around the world. These digital spaces allow theories to proliferate without the editorial oversight that once filtered such content. In this environment, fact and fiction often blur, creating an echo chamber where the repetition of claims lends them a veneer of credibility. This phenomenon reflects a broader trend, the merging of conspiracy theory and entertainment. In an age saturated with content, conspiracies like those surrounding Denver International offer a form of immersive storytelling. They invite audiences to play detective, to re-examine what they think they know about public spaces, institutions, and the narratives they've been told. In this sense, the airport becomes a kind of living arc, an alternate reality game, where the stakes feel both real and abstract. More intriguingly, Denver International has entered the language of political symbolism. For some groups, especially those skeptical of centralized power or secret government programs, the airport stands as a metaphor for elite preparedness. While the public is distracted by day-to-day concerns, the theory suggests that powerful interests have quietly built bunkers, escape plans, and infrastructures of control. The airport, then, is seen as both a literal and symbolic shelter for the few in a world that feels increasingly unstable for the many. This dynamic is further fueled by real-world events. In times of crisis, economic collapse, global pandemics, political upheaval, conspiracy theories often surge. They provide a sense of explanation, however unverified, when official channels offer none or are distrusted. During the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, theories about secret bunkers, elite escapes, and long-term planning resurfaced with renewed urgency. Denver International re-entered the spotlight not just as an oddity, but as a symbol of potential refuge or separation from the chaos outside. Even tourism has been shaped by the conspiracy. Visitors to the airport often seek out the infamous murals, the dedication capstone, or the towering Lucifer statue, snapping photos and posting them with captions that playfully reference the theories. The airport itself has leaned into this trend, launching tongue-in-cheek ad campaigns that feature aliens and Illuminati symbols. While meant to disarm the mystery through humor, the effect has been double-edged. For some, it's proof that the airport has nothing to hide. For others, it's seen as misdirection, an attempt to normalize or trivialize the very secrets being concealed. In literature and film, the imagery associated with Denver International continues to inspire. Writers and creators incorporate elements reminiscent of its murals and legends into dystopian or post-apocalyptic settings. The starkness of the architecture, the apocalyptic symbolism in the art, and the concept of underground facilities have all become narrative shorthand for hidden power and elite refuge. In this way, the Denver airport conspiracy functions not just as a theory, but as a modern myth, one shaped and reshaped by those who tell it. It exists in a liminal space between fact and fiction, supported not by evidence alone, but by its enduring capacity to symbolize deeper fears, about who is really in control, what is being planned out of sight, and whether we are all simply passengers passing through someone else's design. Beyond the mainstream interpretations and debunkings, the Denver airport conspiracy has spawned a labyrinth of fringe theories, speculative angles that push the boundaries of plausibility, yet continue to draw intense interest from devoted followers. These ideas range from secret extraterrestrial alliances to interdimensional portals, each one adding layers of complexity to an already enigmatic location. One of the most widely discussed fringe claims is that Denver International Airport serves as a hub for alien-human collaboration. According to some theorists, deep beneath the airport lies a facility where extraterrestrials work in tandem with secret government factions, exchanging advanced technology in return for resources or genetic material. This narrative ties into broader UFO lore, including supposed bases beneath other remote locations like Dulce, New Mexico. Some claim that strange sounds, electromagnetic anomalies, or unexplained energy readings have been detected near or beneath the airport, clues interpreted as evidence of hidden alien activity. The proximity of the airport to military installations such as NORAD has only intensified these claims. While NORAD is located within the Cheyenne Mountain complex and officially operates as a military command center, fringe theorists suggest an underground tunnel system connects the facility to Denver International. The theory posits that these tunnels are part of a vast subterranean network stretching across the country, designed for elite evacuation, covert troop movement, or the transport of unknown cargo. In this scenario, DIA is not just an airport, but a node in a clandestine transportation grid hidden from public view. Others take a metaphysical angle, claiming the airport was built on powerful ley lines, mystical energy pathways that intersect at specific points on the Earth's surface. In this view, the murals, the capstone, and the odd geometry of the airport are not accidental, but part of an occult design to harness or amplify this energy. The claim is that the airport is not only a center of global control, but also a ritual site, one used by secret societies to conduct esoteric ceremonies, open portals, or influence global consciousness. To these theorists, the strange symbology isn't decoration, it's activation. Some fringe narratives go even further, suggesting that Denver International is one of a handful of locations designed as seed vaults or ark facilities, meant to preserve the elite and genetic samples of life in the event of a planetary catastrophe. These claims are often connected to climate change, nuclear war, or an anticipated pole shift. The vast underground areas are theorized to contain everything from cryogenically preserved embryos to classified archives of human history. While no credible source has confirmed the existence of such facilities at DIA, the secrecy surrounding the airport's subterranean levels continues to fuel the speculation. More recently, a digital age twist has emerged, the idea that the airport is somehow connected to AI experimentation or surveillance infrastructure. In this version, DIA is a testing ground for autonomous systems, biometric scanning, and behavior prediction models. Some point to reports of unusual sensor installations, algorithmic crowd management systems, and the ever-increasing presence of facial recognition technologies. The theory contends that under the guise of transportation efficiency and security, the airport is a proving ground for technologies that could one day underpin global social control. Even Blucifer, the notorious horse statue, has not escaped fringe speculation. Beyond symbolizing death or chaos, some claim the statue acts as a beacon, a kind of totem or marker for entities watching from beyond the physical plane. Its glowing red eyes are said to symbolize not just menace, but surveillance. In this view, Blucifer is more than a sculpture, it's a sentinel. Though these ideas are far removed from conventional thought, they reveal the extraordinary depth of interpretation surrounding Denver International. Every symbol, every structural anomaly, every piece of art becomes a puzzle piece in a narrative built not on evidence, but on belief, pattern recognition, and deep-seated cultural archetypes. In the world of fringe theory, DIA is no longer just an airport. It's a monument to hidden history, a cathedral of secrecy, and possibly a portal to a reality we are not meant to see. As the decades have passed since Denver International Airport first opened its gates in 1995, the conspiracy theories surrounding it have only grown more elaborate, layered, and deeply embedded in the cultural imagination. What began as whispers about cost overruns and strange murals has evolved into a global symbol of secrecy, a modern myth that continues to captivate, unsettle, and provoke. But what makes this particular theory endure where others fade into obscurity? At its core, the Denver airport conspiracy taps into the timeless human fear of the unknown. The airport stands not just as a physical structure, but as a manifestation of ambiguity. Its strange design, hidden spaces, symbolic art, and vague explanations leave room for interpretation. In a world dominated by information, where nearly every location is mapped, every question met with an answer, Denver International remains oddly opaque. That mystery is magnetic. People are drawn to it not necessarily because they believe every theory, but because they sense that something about the place defies ordinary explanation. The theory's endurance is also a product of its adaptability. It evolves with the times. In the 1990s, it reflected fears of government secrecy, underground bunkers, and the New World Order. In the 2000s, it absorbed the cultural resurgence of Freemason paranoia and Illuminati symbolism. In the 2010s, it blended with online UFO lore and technological dystopia. And in the 2020s, it has taken on new forms, becoming entangled with AI concerns, pandemic anxieties, climate catastrophe, and elite survivalism. The airport's mythology updates itself as society changes, always staying just one step ahead of rational explanation. There is also the matter of presentation. Denver International doesn't try to suppress the theories, it embraces them. Whether through marketing stunts, art exhibits, or tongue-in-cheek signs around the terminal, the airport has woven the conspiracy into its identity. This meta-awareness, this wink to the crowd, creates a paradox. By acknowledging the theory, they both diffuse and deepen it. For skeptics, it's clever PR. For believers, it's proof. The airport becomes a self-reinforcing enigma. Any effort to normalize it only adds to its mystique. But perhaps the theory's most lasting power lies in what it represents, the uneasy feeling that ordinary spaces may hide extraordinary truths, that beneath the surface of routine infrastructure, airports, government buildings, transportation networks, there may be layers we are not meant to understand. The murals of children weeping, the glowing red eyes of a horse, the sealed time capsule, all these elements serve as symbols. They don't just ask what Denver Airport is, they ask what else we've missed. What else has been built without our knowledge? Who decides what we see and what we don't? Belief in the Denver Airport conspiracy doesn't require proof. It requires doubt. And that doubt is something many people carry with them, particularly in an age where trust in institutions has eroded. Denver International is, in that sense, a perfect mirror. It reflects our fears of hidden agendas, our suspicion of power without transparency, and our instinct to search for meaning in the margins. Whether the airport hides a bunker, a surveillance lab, or nothing more than failed baggage conveyors and bold public art, its myth remains potent. It endures not because it's provably true, but because it feels possible. And in a world where the unbelievable has become increasingly believable, that possibility is all it takes. The mystery of Denver International Airport is not just about what's underground or what's behind the murals. It's about what happens when belief fills the space that facts cannot. It's about the stories we tell ourselves when certainty slips just out of reach. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real secret hidden beneath the Colorado plains.